kill me, but you will never destroy me. It takes strength to resist the dark side.
Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one.
Are you kidding? Why the hell should I wait for you?
I know what it's like to try and rebuild a life. I had a bad day too, once.
If you're having nightmares, then welcome to the club. My name's Subaru Natsuki, and I am the Knight of Amelia.
Right now, all I can give you is just death.
It wasn't for you in particular.
You fought 100 men because it's not in your nature to run away.
If you are feeling disheartened, that you are somehow not enough, set your heart ablaze.
All right, welcome to the 21st episode of whatever this show is. And tonight I have a special guest with me. Welcome, Hero Darky Dark. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show. Glad to be here.
No problem. No problem. So aside from, I shouldn't say aside. So like tonight, basically what I have to cover is one, obviously you have not just one comic book you're working on, but I saw you have another one you're getting ready to do. So we'll talk a lot about that at the start of the show here. And then there are two other topics. If afterwards you want to hang around and cover those with me, it's fine. It's the whole lovely complex dub issue that happened recently. And then Kodansha trying to do some more stuff to compete with Shonen Jump.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind staying around for it. Sounds fun.
Is what it is. So I think the first thing to get into is, because I always start the show off with like just covering like an indie project or something. And a while back I found your comic book, Relentlessly Bullied Hero, and I thought it looked fun. I thought it looked like something I would read. So you ended up finding my video that I cut out of my live stream, and from there we've ended up here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this project you've been working on?
Mm-hmm. Well, as you can obviously tell, it's superhero based, Relentlessly Bullied Hero. It's basically following this one. He's called a new gen hero, as recently the Star Hero, which is like, you can call it like a city's Superman, All Might, the Batman, basically like the most prominent hero, have died a couple of months ago. And so a new generation of heroes started rising up to both kind of take his place and be inspired from it. And so the main character, his name is Zero, is one of these heroes that appeared during that time. And so as he's going around doing great stuff, largely so he ends up in a very binding deal with a villain. Her name's Gamora. And so now he can't get rid of her, no matter what he does, not even if he wants to. So he's basically forced to continue his strive to be a great hero, whilst he's basically following him around, screwing with him, messing with him, basically just being an all-around bully because he's bored.
Yeah, very entertaining premise. Obviously, that was like one of the things reading through the Kickstarter, which I have pulled up here. Look, the artwork and stuff like caught my eye. The premise caught my eye. Reading the description of it, I was like, all right, this actually does seem like a pretty fun project. So I also noticed it says you were inspired by My Hero Academia, One Punch Man, some other like iconic classic superhero TV show stuff. So what I see in this is like, as far as the My Hero Academia stuff goes, one of the big things I've noticed is like, it kind of feels like reminiscent of the Vigilante arc, where like Deku goes off on his own and does his own thing.
Yeah, like I'd say that was a big inspiration. If you read All My Hero, you know that there was like different eras of herodom where it was like, okay, yeah, this was when Crook first started, when things are more like a outlaw town where there's much more structure. Well, there were heroes, but it's not like the hero we currently think of. Then the more reforming age, when All Might started coming to the picture. Then the current age where we start the series, and then of course once All Might retires, it's like a whole new thing. I say, yeah, this series take a big inspiration from that. Okay, what happens after the big guy goes away? How will society keep up? Because kind of like with a lot of things, if someone that big an inspiration go away, yeah, those people who try to take up the place, but that also means that there is going to be some degradation going on, and so some people who it's not like they even all have to be bad people, but there's some people who just stop being as effective or heroic as they should and such. And so,
Mhm.
as
You
that goes
have
on,
someone who is like a leader who kind of inspires everyone to be their best. And
yeah,
then
exactly.
everyone, once that person is out of the picture, things start to just sort of fall out of line because there was this one person holding things together. You see actually like a lot of that in comics where like they'll kill off or like quote unquote kill off a big hero and they'll sort of watch everything like fall apart because they were carrying so much weight in society. I think one of the best examples of that would be like the story The Death of Superman, where he
Yeah.
fights Day and then like they try to replace him with a bunch of clones and he's not actually dead and all that. And you kind of see how Metropolis and society as a whole like starts to fall apart as Superman is out of the picture. So this looks like a fairly different take. It kind of takes some of that, like the idea that you had a society like propped up by one person, takes a little bit of like vigilante Deku stuff and does a little bit of the cooler part of My Hero Academia, if you ask me.
Mhm.
So
Oh
that's
yeah, for sure.
exciting to see. Plus, I mean, there's always a new way for someone to tell a story that you would never think of, and this is definitely a new take, something I wouldn't do.
Yeah, I kind of decided to start story here as I kind of feel like this usually part of the series, at least throughout most superhero media, are often like either it's skipped upon or undone or such. Because usually, the hero only stays dead for like episode two, and then immediately either something solves it or he comes
Mhm.
back to life. So I just think, yeah, why not just actually just put the story right there and
Yeah.
see what we can do for it.
Why not have the story, like, start where, like, the hero's dead and they just don't come back?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
plus,
that's
it'd be a fun way to because then it leaves a lot of mystery about okay, how do we get there? How did the hero die? Was it just from old age? Was it something or and what happened? Because as I mentioned before, the story starts this one anyway, starts months after it. So of course there's a bunch of months between then and now where it's like, okay, a lot can happen that can form why things are such a way it is and such.
Mhm. Yeah, so one other question I've had about it was, is this something, like, you were planning to or, like, you would think, okay, let me rephrase this. Is this something you went into thinking like, "Oh, I could do a couple installments of this, tell the story in sections," or was this something like you decided you were going to like test the water with, just put out one, see how people respond. If it doesn't do as well as you'd hoped, it would just kind of be the one off, and if it got traction, you would continue doing it.
I say it's kind of like a mix of both. Where it's like, yeah, I'll at least pull like one or four different issues, see how it goes. So I can. I don't want to just make one and then base everything off of just that one campaign because who knows, it might not even just be the story itself. Maybe it's just been how I market it or how I price the Kickstarter. So I usually like to give it like one or two to see how people like it. Of course, I have like a style of stories and stuff planned out in case I, see if it has potential, I can expand it. But I kind of like doing that. Okay, let me not go too deep into it immediately. So in case it's a flop or a hit a road, it's not like okay, I'm just completely dumping it. But there's
Mhm.
enough where it's like, hey, if people actually are really really interested in it, and I can really push it, then yeah, you can easily look forward to it like having 20 plus issues and such, 20,
Mhm.
30, depending on how I pace everything and
Yeah.
such.
As like I do a bit of writing myself. I have some plans to release something kind of like manga, light novel inspired here in the future. Um, like there's the way you've done it where you kind of like, I don't want to say it in like a negative way, but hedged your bets, I guess, where like it can go either way. You're gonna give it the try and like hope to make something out of it, which is the dream. Or there's the way I've seen some people do it who like bank it all on, getting that success. Like, I'm gonna tell this story. It's gonna be big. I'm not gonna be able to do it in one part. So I gotta get this done right. That's the nerve-wracking part of it, and I can respect taking the less risky strategy and just being like, we're gonna test the water, we're gonna see how this goes. And for what it's worth, I mean, Kickstarter tends to have a lot of these smaller campaigns, and it looks like with 7 days left, you might, or I shouldn't say might, it looks like most likely you will get there. But you did say something that is important. Like, I think you are familiar with Tyler C. World Talk and Draw. He does a lot of like he talks a lot about marketing and indie comics and stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's one of the things that I've realized, like as far as like making these projects, is marketing is a huge part of it. It's one thing to have like a really good story, but if you don't just like get out there and try to sell it to people and have your sales pitch ready, you're not going to get it far. Like, not even Lord of the Rings would get very far if like it didn't have a good bit of marketing behind it. And I've actually been reading the letters of Tolkien, and sure, The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings were excellent, like fantastic stories, but reading some of like the things that actually went into getting that book out there, it shows there was more to it than just Tolkien's skill. And that said, this kind of fits into an interesting niche that would make it a little bit easier to market because, one, it's a comic book. It's something you can get into pretty easily. It's not like you're going to have to pick up a novel and sit there for a couple of hours and read it. This is something that's easy to read and easy to digest. Plus, it seems to be a lot more shonen, which is very popular. Was that like a calculated thing going for like the shonen genre, or was it just something that you liked?
Yeah, I say it's like both. But like, of course, I was like greatly inspired by things like Dragon Ball, Naruto, Bleach. So of course, that always have like a big influence to what interests me to write and such. So it was like kind of a bit of both. It's also why I kind of made the story be the way it is, because I like to market it in two different ways. So like in more long time form, there's a whole, as I mentioned, it's a post death of the star hero role and all that complicated stuff. And on a more simpler end, it's, hey, here's this one interesting hero villain dynamic where the hero can't get rid of the villain, you just want to mess with him. And so it makes it easier. So if I had an ad, well, it can only, advertise or speak for like 10, 15, 30 seconds, I could easily just do like, oh, well, yeah, let me just toss this at you. But then if there are people who are more interested for like a little bit of a longer explanation, that's why I can go to all that detail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just had a question and it completely slipped my mind now. Oh God, I'm so good at this. It's okay. I tend to be attracted to like the I generally just call it weird fiction stuff, like Don Dodon and all of that comes at you with this just out there premise, something you never would have heard of, because that's the kind of stuff like that really like catches my attention. You get these really weird like premises, or you just get something that's completely creative and new. Like the idea of this like being just like the main character wants to be a hero, but his biggest nemesis is the person who just wants to tease him because she's bored. That in and of itself was like the creative take that really got me to look at this. So I guess, yeah, as far as like carrying it into long form content, starting easy and just like, getting the story established good way to sort of like slow roll into like a bigger story if you really want to do something like really shonen-esque. Like if you really wanted to go for that Naruto or My Hero Academia storyline that, you know, goes through this whole big arc and ends with a climactic battle against a villain. That's something you could do. Or if you just wanted to make this like just a fun series where you have Grimoire, Bully, Zeal the whole way through and just over like some like episodic sort of storytelling the way Batman the Animated Series did things where every installment is just like a chapter that doesn't really have an end goal, but every time it's something like a sort of self-contained adventure, I guess I would say.
Yeah, yeah, like for sure. Like that's always been a thought. As I'm kind of like even right now, I'm still always debating because there are like some story beats, but I'm always just like, okay, so I put it here, or so I leave it a little bit down the line, and then between then and there, so I put in a little bit more episodic stories that's not really like a continuous plot, but it's just like okay, them dealing with the different aspects and such. And it's always just kind of like and it's kind of like when I'm happy that I'm actually am starting. As the more I start and continue, it get a better sense of sensing, okay, what works, what do people like, what doesn't like, then fully marking out the plan.
Yeah, so
And
that is basically like the whole idea, like the relentless bully hero. I like it. I like the artwork so far from what like you've shown in the campaign of like the storytelling and stuff. Um it's got me really interested and I'm hoping you do get your funding for that. But moving on to that, I noticed you put up um a notification for like another project you're working on. So would you mind sharing a little bit about that one too? The
oh yeah, so the second one, that's Stormwell Riders. So similar to Relentlessly Bully Hero number one, it is inspired by Sonen. Have you ever heard of a anime called Airgill?
I don't think so. It doesn't sound familiar.
Well, no problem. It's also inspired by stuff like Jet Set Radio and yeah, those kind of stuff. And basically, they're just both of those anime are basically just like think of the Delinquent movies was all about different gangs and groups and stuff, battling it out to have control of the streets, but on roller skates. So this is basically just like my take in that genre niche, and of course, very heavily anime inspired. So there's a lot of I'll say craziness, Dom doing more than you expect people to do, that kind of stuff.
That's one of the things like I think that has made shonen like the genre you're kind of breaking into here so popular is that there's a lot of just like fun about it. So like you go into something like Naruto or Hunter x Hunter and you kind of like there's a lot of just like goofy stuff that they get up to. Like we talk about the filler episodes of Naruto, which I never really cared for, but they did some goofy things. Like there was one episode about like chasing an ostrich down, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've watched it.
Yes, that was great.
Or like Hunter x Hunter, just overall being like the aesthetic looks so childish all the time, but like you get in the storytelling of it, it's very, very dark at times too. Which is interesting because again, shonen always tends to have that aspect of like fun and humor to it. Which makes it like easy most of the time to get into. I see a lot of that in like the projects here. It's just fun is the vibe I get from it. Like it's just gonna be something that's entertaining. Whether or not it has some like really impactful, life-changing story, well that will remain to be seen until like way later. But for now, it just looks fun, which is, why I personally backed the project. I thought it was going to be something entertaining, something I would read. And again, like I did in the last video, in the last indie comic highlight, I would encourage people to, go check out the campaign Relentlessly Bullied Hero on Kickstarter. As of the time of this little interview here, there is still 7 days left. And there's also the Storm Rail Riders, I think it was.
Yep. Yeah, like you
Storm
said,
Rail Riders, that's
fun.
coming
It's-
later this year if I have that correct. Something that's not quite up for crowdfunding yet, but will be in the next couple of months. I think it was like what, April, May or something that it goes live.
Yeah, around those time. But yeah, like you mentioned before, that's what's kind of like my goal for like these stories. Will always just, like so many times I feel like people tend to focus a little bit too much about trying to create the next, Lord of the Rings or Star Wars series to where they kind of forget like the best part about these things is that they're fun. You can pick them up, enjoy them, and have a good old time. But so yeah, that was kind of my goal. Was like, okay, brings the fun back to reading the story to where it's like, if you want to like read Stormware Waters, you don't have to always just go like, oh yeah, I'm reading this because it's the most deep psychedelic story about the human mind. Was like, yeah, it could have those elements, but also you want to see the guy do like some sick tricks upside down, and then see him possibly, I can't confirm, kick a guy through a window or someone with hook chains, grab on stuff and that stuff. Just that sense of, yeah, this while I read it, can this make me feel happy? Something was like, I just got back from home and yeah, let me just see that fight or that race again and just see how they did it.
Yeah, there's
that bad.
What you're talking about really is just escapism, the thing you go to, not to like, the thing you go to just get away from the world. And that's really all a good piece of fiction needs to be. So it makes me happy to hear you're taking this, like you're looking at this more from the aspect of just entertainment and escapism, of making something that people can enjoy. Because those kinds of like people who approach telling stories like that generally tend to have the most like fun stories. Again, may not be the most meaningful thing, but like you said, not everything needs to be the next Lord of the Rings or the next Star Wars. It just needs to be fun and entertaining, something people can enjoy.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people miss is that not all those series always ended up as this grand, deep, deep stuff. Like even stuff like Naruto, that literally started as ninjas. I mean, yeah, there was a lot of lore about tail beasts and stuff, but yeah, at the beginning it was basically about ninjas and then what they do, and then it just slowly steep in all that extra deep stuff. Same with stuff like Dragon Ball, Bleach, and other stuff. So it's not like I feel like a lot of people have an issue to where like they want to always be seen as elitist, no matter what, that they are too afraid to just actually enjoy media. And so instead of just enjoying something because it's entertaining, they always have to try to like overly justify it, going like, oh no, this is actually like the most deepest thought piece ever. It was like I don't doubt it that a lot of these things do have like some deep or introspective meaning in them, but like, goddamn, like chill. And it's kind of funny, 'cause, like that kind of personality of always being hyper intense and serious about everything is kind of like what the main character of Relentlessly Bully Hero is Zero, where it's like, yeah, if you read the Kickstarter, you know that he's classified as an edgelord, so it's always a little bit dramatic and over the top of things. And that's how I make fun of everything. I just thought that'd be fun, and that's also why I made Gamora the way she is, as as an indie creator. I don't even have that much of a following and such. It's gonna be a little bit hard, knock me above, going like, hey, just follow this edgelord. So of course, you're gonna need something to help just oppose his existence, and what better way than, well, there's a villain, she's hot, and she mocks him.
Hey, I mean, it got the attention of enough people to almost get the whole project funded so far. So, I mean, it's worked out pretty well thus far. Again, I like it. I'm looking forward to it. We'll probably end up well, leave that thought there, that incoherent little bit of rambling there. But yes, so Relentlessly Bullied Hero. It's fun. There's also Storm Rail Riders coming later. You guys can go check those out. You have the names now. From there, I'm gonna move on to some of the news stuff now. So if again, Hero Darky Dark, if you want to stay and cover the stuff with me, perfectly welcome to. And if you just want to, like, talk about the book and scoop, that's fine too. But
All right, no problem. I don't mind staying.
let's bring up this. So basically, from what I understand of this, is the two big manga publishers in the hold on a second. I got a message here that I need to respond to. There we go. So the two big manga publishers for the industry are Shonen Jump, and Kodansha. So now Kodansha USA has started doing some bold experiments doing English first manga, which I'm still trying to wrap my head around what that's supposed to mean. Like, they go into some detail later in the article about how it's like they're publishing manga that was drafted in English, but I'm still trying to figure out whether that means it was drafted by people, like just drafted in English because, or if it was drafted by people outside of Japan and they're publishing it. But we'll get into this. So, in a further attempt at gaining market dominance over competitor Shonen Jump, Kodansha USA, the American division of the renowned manga publisher, announced the most recent addition to its innovative lineup of English first manga series releases. These exclusive titles will be accessible solely through the company's American website. Sorry, distraction. So, right off the bat, it's kind of interesting to hear all this, like I said, because we're talking about, like, generally you think manga, you think Japanese, then to English, but this whole idea of like English first brings to the mind, like, the idea again that, like, are they like publishing things made here in like the States, or is this just some sort of random weird gimmick to try and draw in English readers? Any thoughts?
Yeah. I just kind of hope that it's just more of they're just taking more care to making sure that basically those in the West, oh, not Western, no, Western, yeah, those in the Western worlds can get manga easier as it'll be translated faster than giving like all these creative control to Westerners, as I don't want to deal with more of this, or more, let's say, backroom editorial nonsense that we know that a lot of localizers do.
Some of which we'll get into later here tonight. But yeah, that is one of the things that's going to be interesting because, again, in the article, it said, from what I was reading about this subject, Kodansha is basically publishing like titles that were drafted in English, which means there's no translation needed. It just straight up bypasses any of the localizers. And now, particularly for the author of this one they're talking about here, the Reanima series, this is a very Japanese sounding name. Yoshinori Matsuoka. That definitely sounds like someone who's Japanese, which, look, it isn't far-fetched for someone who's Japanese to know English, because English is an international business language, and I'm pretty sure they teach it in schools over there. Which, again, brings it back to the point where you're making of, like, we have all this, like, backroom editorial stuff going on with localizers is this another way, like alongside the AI issue that Ancient Magus Bride was bringing up? Do you think this is going to be something that is another way around all of that? Maybe, maybe. Anyway,
Yeah, I kind of hope so.
sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
That's like because for a lot, I know a lot of people like, even though they have a big issue with the localizers, they don't just want to have it completely be taken over by AI, which I get. So I just kind of, I know it's probably being a little bit too optimistic, but I just kind of hope that just like it's just a better third option.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like the best options for solving that issue of translation and all of that would be to like like to be able to know like the original language that it's written in, or to have the author themselves write it in multiple languages so that they get their own meaning across properly. But both take a hefty amount of work, because take it from someone who's been trying to learn Japanese for almost a year now, it is not easy
Yeah, and I
to
don't
learn
think
another
any
language.
manga creators in the busy schedule they had time to learn entirely new languages.
Yeah, that's another thing. These people are really, really busy. So, as reported on Anime News Network late last month, Kodansha USA announced that Yoshinori Matsuoka's new climate punk manga Reanima would be available for immediate release via its Kodansha Reader Portal service. The manga is the third title of its new and exclusive series featuring stories that are originally drafted in English rather than being English translations of Japanese first works. So yeah, like pretty much everything I just sort of covered there. Like it kind of bypasses the need for any sort of translation. So Kodansha's English First special series debuted in September 2023 with the premiere of Omasei's vampire horror story Bloodblade. Again, these are manga that I haven't actually heard about, so it might be interesting to check some of these out. That was followed in November 2023 with the release of fan favorite author Uta Isaki's spellbook library. Now, that one does actually sound familiar. In and of itself, the series is quite innovative. While manga fans have grown accustomed to content generation beginning in Japan, the new Kodansha series, at the very least, acknowledges the company's intent to give American fans a nod for their dedication and devotion. So it looks like they're trying to move to like rewarding people for like drafting in English, or like trying to give the English fans content at the same time as Japanese fans, it looks like. Because that's one thing I've noticed like in this sphere is you're dealing with foreign entertainment, and obviously when it has to be translated, the country it was originally created for is miles ahead of us here in the States. Any thoughts? No.
Yeah, I just realized I was on mute. I was just about to say, I was thinking, yeah, I think they either recognized or just really wanted that foreign market money in prime time and didn't want to lose it to like piracy or anything of that sort. So they're just deciding, hey, if you just create a company that does it for us, we can get them both out at the same time. And now there's no excuses for it.
Yeah, that's one thing that has like again ties into the localization issues is the Western market. The idea of the US being a huge source of money for mangaka and for anime studios has given localizers some leverage to like pressure for changes. This kind of is like the best of both worlds by doing this, where like you have these titles drafted in English and published in English at the same time. Not only does it help with like the piracy issue, where like people no longer are going out of their way to pirate things because they're worried about like keeping up with exactly where it is and not seeing spoilers. They're not worried about bad translations. They're getting exactly what they want. So I see this being I see this playing out well for Kodansha. It's an
Yeah,
interesting
for
way of
sure.
thinking about
Like
it.
if they play the cards right, check out everything, make sure at least they test a few things out. I feel like this could be like really, really innovative for the manga industry that'll satisfy both, the company wants and Eastern Western people's demands and such. In a way that'll satisfy fans without, dealing with dealing with all those gatekeepers and old guards.
Mhm. Yeah, so once upon a time, Kodansha was considered a more prominent publisher of manga than Shueisha, the publisher of Weekly Shonen Jump. The tide began turning for the younger Shueisha in the 1980s and the 1990s with the publication of massive hits like Dragon Ball, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and One Piece. I mean, those are like insanely huge successes. I mean, I may not care much for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but like One Piece and Dragon Ball, they are like some of the biggest titles you can possibly put out there when it comes to manga.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Kodansha has never been an easy out, though. It is responsible for its fair share of incredibly influential works like Omasu Tezuka's seminal Astro Boy, Katsuhiro Otomo's Akira. No, that was a good movie. Or Akira, however you want to pronounce that. More recently, it enjoyed immense success with Hajime Isayama's Attack on Titan, Ken Wakui's Tokyo Revengers. Hot take, I think Ken Wakui's first manga was better than Tokyo Revengers. And Makoto Yukimuri's Vinland Saga. He even claimed the top 2023 sports manga with Blue Lock. So yeah, it's like these two have been competing forever. So this is definitely an interesting take to sort of internationalize the idea of what they're doing. Because here it also says like, they were going for some K manga on their mobile app, which I mean, look, with the success of stuff like Solo Leveling and all of that stuff, kind of proves that bringing this stuff in, like all stuff that's similar, is a good business model, I think.
Yeah, for sure, I agree. Like so far, with just what was said, it just seems, at least for now, simply to be a mostly positive thing.
Mhm. Looking to start a domestic manga revolution. Ooh, interesting. I don't think I read this part of the article. None of Kodansha's efforts have been as bold as its reader portal service. The manga on the service will be available free of charge to anyone who signs up for reader portal service and will remain so until the release of the series' first physical volume. Interesting. So basically, what it's saying is all of these English only titles or whatever, or maybe I'm reading this wrong, but it's interesting to say that like until its first like volume is released, everything will be free. It's definitely a really good way to get people into some of these titles. I've actually seen a couple of, or read and watched a couple of these projects. Some of them I don't even recognize, like. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. ADD moment.
Oh, no problem.
In addition to getting access to the English-only titles of the series, members can also enjoy a range of perks and benefits, ranging from free chapters of Kodansha's extensive library of manga to discounts for manga purposes. Those benefits, combined with its release of top-level manga like Reanima, suggest that Kodansha USA might finally be able to regain its lead from Shonen Jump. That's about the end of the article, and it's really like, I guess to like the layman or whatever, it would seem like a lot of boring stuff, but it's interesting to me to see how the international market has started to shape manga itself. Obviously, I mentioned earlier the issue of like the localizer stuff and how the foreign market money has given localizers, and they've said this themselves, a little bit more leeway to pressure creators for changes, which I don't like the idea of that. They're going to start bullying anime and manga creators the same way that Hollywood has bullied each other and sort of ruined a lot of the stuff we like.
Yeah, of course. And I feel like that's will always be like the greatest challenge of this. Until this like fully pops up, become more popular, and if it becomes what we think it does, then it'll probably like be one of the few times those kind of issues just completely go away. As you know, like you said, if it already being made or published in English by the company itself, you know, via like a creator and such, then why do we need localizers outside of like, you know, old school games that doesn't have them, or companies who are too broke to do what they're doing?
Yeah, it's looking like Japan's entertainment won't go the way that Hollywood has gone. It seems like they have a completely different view on this kind of stuff than we do. Last week I covered an article where it was talking about how like Japanese companies basically ditched ESG funds. They weren't interested in it anymore. You have people like are you familiar with the series Uzaki-chan Wants to Hang Out, or Uzaki-san Wants to Hang Out?
Yeah, that one about that one girl with the giant rack. Yeah.
Yeah. So when season 2 was announced in the trailer, they literally had the character talking about how feminists on Twitter were upset about her huge tits and that she wasn't going to apologize or stop.
That's awesome. You know,
Of course you would chime in, JM, the moment I bring up huge freaking tits, okay? Yeah,
you know, since you're on the subject
there's
of Uzaki, I have a small bit of a confession about how Uzaki and you know about Don't Bully Me Nagato?
Don't Bully Me, Miss Nagatoro, yes.
Yeah, so you know those kind of animes have a small bit of inspiration to the main dynamic in Relentlessly Bully Hill. That
See,
girl who
okay,
fucks with guy
here's what
thing.
I'll say about like from what I've seen of yours. It actually looks like at least it looks like Zeal at least has like a bit of like a pair of
Backbone.
balls.
Yeah, he does.
He has a backbone. The thing I didn't like about Don't Bully Me, Miss Nagatoro was the fact that the dude basically just like caves to every one of her fucking demands. Like he just lets her push him around, and it was the most annoying thing. I hate those sort of like herbivore protagonists. I just can't stand them. They like drive me away from the series. So
Yeah, that
yeah.
was something I found my best with.
Uzaki-chan wants to hang out.
Yeah.
The guy again has a bit of a backbone, but it's like it's kind of the same dynamic. It's kind of endearing the way they like bully each other the whole way through.
Yeah.
Another one that actually like happened as far as like those controversies of Japan just saying screw you. My Dress Up Darling. There's a scene where Marin Kitagawa gets a spray tan and people started talking about her doing blackface.
Don't even remind me of that. So yeah,
And the author
me.
basically, like in a polite way, told everyone who was like coming at her to just go fuck off.
Like stuff like that. It kind of annoyed me because just like you know, I thought the entire issue was blackface was the fact that it was people putting on a mockery of black people, not someone with darker skin who used to be white. Or like pale and such. Yeah, just it feels like one of those things where we just kind of missed the point of what we're offended on, and now we're just pointing at anything that's it. It's like when people will say anything or any story that ever had like a gay kill in it is woke. When it's like, no, the point is we don't like it when we just randomly change characters or we just have a weird hyper fixation on it when it was never there in the series or was barely in the series before. It's just kind of like that. We're just like, okay, this is very obviously two different things.
Just to answer your question, JM, I do absolutely love Komi Can't Communicate the manga. Although I do not like that whole like love triangle arc they went through recently, like after like volume 20. That was a bit annoying to me, but after that, the series stabilized and went back to all like the fun, like wholesome stuff. But yeah,
Yeah, good.
it's funny to watch this stuff. And now there was one that was faked of Akira Toriyama basically telling people that he wasn't going to like slow down on the Mr. Popo stuff. That was a complete fake, and a lot of people fell for it. I saw it circulate the internet, and I even fell for it for a little while, and then I started looking it up for a video, and I found out it was completely faked. That was a whole thing.
The whole was a
Or like
funny.
one of my
He's not even
sorry.
human. He's a genie. So it's like, okay, we're not even reaching. They don't have to be human anymore. Just
Yeah. One of my favorite, and the final one I'll bring up on this is one of my favorite anime directors, Makoto Shinkai, and responsible for Weathering with You, Suzume, Your Name, great movies, all of them. So much more he's done too. He basically said that like Japan's entertainment should like focus on entertaining Japan, which has kind of been like one of the things that I've been saying for a long time now, even before I started my channel, that like the reason we like manga and anime is because of what it is, not because of what like Westerners want it to be.
yeah, like I feel like the issue with a lot of Western thing is that people fell a little bit too much in love with themselves. So it's like, okay, they always want to see, themselves, their policies, their politics, the way they view life to always be reflected into whatever they watch. And just like, bro, that's boring. Then you basically just come to the same conclusion in every series, same as the last, just a little bit different. And it's like at that point, why even watch the series? You might as well just look in the mirror and then just tell yourself all that thing from the beginning.
Sorry, yeah, the people who need I've actually said this in some of my videos when I do a section or segment called study sessions where I go into some of these things. I have said in my videos before, like people who need a mirror to see themselves in a character have no empathy. So like seeing this whole like push for like the adapting manga for the modern audience, let me tell you something. If Twitter people got their way with Berserk, that series would get neutered so hard. It's because of all of the like dark stuff that Mura put in that series that really makes it pop. Like it's hard to describe without just like straight up like going on a whole spiel about Berserk, because I love that series. But like if you cut out the eclipse, if you cut out all of the like stuff that would make people uncomfortable and makes like Twitter hate it, the story is so bland. It feels like it lacks any punch. And that's one of the things like I feel like the West has kind of abandoned is it's afraid of making people feel uncomfortable for the sake of making them think. Like I think Blue Eyed Samurai is a really good example of like something that came out of the West here recently and actually did that, because like it approached a lot of these topics that they would want to talk about, like women were treated as property and all of that, and like all that stuff in Blue Eyed Samurai, but it's addressed properly within a historical context, and it's not made preachy. Very good show.
Yeah, there's this one girl I know who's been trying to recommend it to me, but I always find it annoying. So I'm always just like, yeah, so I will, and just go back to doing what I was doing before.
Yeah, I went into it like thinking like, oh, this is probably going to be like woke, hate on white men kind of stuff. And I came out of it like, maybe I should take my blinders off when I go into these things and actually judge them for what they are.
Yeah,
It was
I
interesting. It
do.
was an interesting experience.
Yeah, so I mean, at least that's good to know that it's actually interesting. So maybe next time she suggests it to me, I might actually. But yeah, I
Mhm.
do always try, even for like stuff I hate, I do always try to like, at least as you said, kind of see as it is. Mostly kind of like as a writer for me, as that can do a lot for like a writing process. As now, if you understand what works and what doesn't, you can help apply it to like your own story. So okay, why isn't this funny? Why do you actually hate this? Why don't you not care for these characters? And then
Mhm.
you can take those lessons, and then what. At least you have things that can help you know what not to and what to do to certain stuff.
Yeah, it's um it is a whole freaking mess the way entertainment has gotten. I'm glad to see that it looks like Japan may just be the good source of entertainment for a while yet.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, I'm going to bring up the next thing that has come up this week that everyone's been all up in arms about. Here we go. So, never heard of Lovely Complex until all this, so I won't pretend to be a huge fan, but I am not a big fan, as I've stated, of localizers. So, Lovely Complex English dub hit by controversy as contractor gets blacklisted by Discotech. So, Discotech Media has issued an official statement regarding a controversial English dubbing of the classic 2000s rom-com anime Lovely Complex. Anime distributor Discotech Media has released a statement regarding the controversy surrounding its recently released English dub of the classic rom-com comedy Lovely Complex. Media OCD CEO Justin Savakis went online to discuss the brewing controversy of the Lovely Complex English dub. Okay, how many times am I going to have to say that in this article? Take a shot every time I say that. Okay. We are aware of the comments made by a contractor that worked on Lovely Complex. The statement reads: the English version was made with the supervision and approval of the show's original producers. Dubs commonly punch up comedy and smooth over rough patches. I can point to some cases where that's not true. So that the end product aligns with the show's intended audience and provokes the intended response. And there will always be shades of gray when adapting a work. Anyone expecting exact fealty to the Japanese dialogue should be watching these subtitles, which Discotech has always presented with as little alteration as is possible when translating from a very different language. We are deeply disappointed at this individual's lack of professional discretion and will not be working with him in the future. We will continue to work on future projects with an eye towards satisfying as many fans as possible. Thank you for your comments and support. So, right off the bat, like I have some thoughts of my own. I mean, they say that where was it? Smooth over rush, punch up comedy, smooth over rough patches, so that the end product aligns with the show's intended audience. I actually just added to my collection Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, and if you're familiar with the whole Lukawa thing, yeah, you'll know why that comment right there might irk me a little bit. Now, I don't think Discotech had anything to do with that dub, but it is like there are some like nuances here. In Japanese, just from the little bit I've learned, things don't always directly translate. For instance, there are a lot of honorifics in Japanese that we just don't have English equivalents for. Which, kind of will make translating a bit of a hassle. So I can understand when you're doing a dub trying to like get it to like make sense, to smooth over rough patches, and like you want to like make dialogue flow smoothly in a language that it wasn't originally written in. Which is like one of my big problems with a lot of dubs is they don't do a good job of like ironing out clunky dialogue. But it's really what pisses us off is Yeah, where is it? It's what basically this guy did right here. So before I move on, any thoughts you want to share?
Uh, no, not too much. Oh wait, is this that controversy that Yellow Apocalypse got into that I have everyone freaking out like around
Yeah.
for like 3 days?
That's exactly what this says here. The contract in question is Brendan Blaber, better known as the YouTuber personality Jello Apocalypse. So, in a now deleted blog post shared by Twitter user ScratchPointZ, Blaber discussed the 2-year plus production of the lovely complex English dub. Throughout the blog post, Blaber admitted that he and co-translator Marisa Lenti. Hold on a second. Yeah, okay. Oh crap, I clicked the wrong thing. There we go. Back to reading. Marissa Lenti both hated the 2007 rom-com anime. See, that right there should tell you that these people shouldn't be working on this. It's like the same thing as like people who are like Marvel writers not reading any of the comics for the characters that they're writing.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I'm just like, I'm kind of happy this happened because now it's like, okay, yeah, the fact that he basically just blew the lid on this whole thing, I'm like, okay, so now there's no longer any excuses. There's no, oh, we're just doing that and that. It's like, okay, it's close cut. You gotta purposely mess with the source material. So, yeah, now I don't care what happens to you guys if you lose your job to AI or whatever. It's like, hey, you. At this point, you're straight up asking for it.
Yeah, they pretty much given companies leeway to just axe them without having any fan backlash. But here, this comment, dude, I think that Lovecom is a bad show about Risa Koizumi, an actual psychopath and an all-over useless freak. Blaber
Oh
wrote.
my goodness, bro, chill.
This dude just absolutely laying into it. Like, look, I haven't seen it, but look at these two. Look at these two. Do either of them look like a psychopath?
I know. It's one of those things where I feel like time people take fictional characters too literally, as if you'll think that to believe they're real people. I'm just like, bro, relax. The drawings, like they stop existing the second you stop looking on the page.
Right. He continued to slam the quality of the show, especially for skipping manga-only material, which, in his own words, all fucking sucked. There are also passages where Blaber self-congratulated himself, and I think that's redundant, and Lenti for turning an unremarkable and frustrating 3 out of 10 show into a pretty funny and mostly watchable 7 out of 10 show. That in and of itself is insane to me. The idea that you like, it's kind of like the same mentality that I see going on with the Avatar Stairbender live action stuff, where like it's all about like how can we improve this? How can we make it better? How can our version be better than the original? Well, maybe don't. Maybe just give us the original because that's what people liked.
Yeah, exactly. It surprised me how so many people can take simple jobs and make them somehow more complicated than it is. And then they pat themselves on the back as if they just solved, I don't know, the greatest math question ever. And it's like, no, bro, you just did 2 plus 2. And then because you're a freaking egotist, you made it like 10 steps to get to 4. And sometimes they don't even get to 4, they make it to 5. I'm like, you didn't even get it right in the end.
I think that's probably like the best way of explaining it. Yeah. Or like the best way of explaining it I've heard. Like these people are like making a mountain out of a molehill. Because of their own ego, pretty much. And I guess here it goes into like some of the actual changes. So perhaps the most controversial aspect of Blaber's post was the confirmation that the English translation team altered the transphobic humor aimed at transgender anime character Seiki Kotobuki to be less problematic. Oh, so protected class, you're not allowed to make fun of them.
Yeah, these people aren't afraid to call regular people like call them the SS warriors all the time and many other horrific stuff. But all of a sudden, you make one joke about a class, and now that's too far.
You make one joke about someone tucking, and all of a sudden, you off the internet, fool. So additionally, Atsushi Otani's dialogue about wanting to slap Arisa nonstop was nearly eliminated in the dub. Why? That sounds funny.
I know.
Like it sounds like they're taking out like half of the reason I would want to watch this show.
It's
like,
not like if your mom, read a comic you want to read and then start crossing out all the words you didn't approve of. It's like, why did even like the most minor stuff need to be like taken out?
Mm-hmm. Well, there will be debates on whether it's up to a translator to fix problematic elements in a show, for better or for worse, is a sorry, I screwed that up. Well, there will be debates on whether it's up to translators to fix problematic elements in a show that, for better or for worse, is a byproduct of its era. Blatantly ridiculing the original version of Lovely Complex is most likely why Blaber has now been blacklisted by Discotek Media. Which, yeah, it was kind of my thoughts. It's not that they made the changes, it's the fact that he pretty much went out and talked shit about the product they were making that got him blacklisted. Basically, he said the quiet part out loud. They're okay with the changes so long as you don't brag about them.
Yeah, I'm just like, that's why I'm kind of happy he did it, because now it's like, okay, it's no more hiding. It's like that. See, I forgot what that book's called, but it was when the mafia used to be able to get whatever they want in prison, but then someone blew the lid on it, and now they can't be as free as they used to. It's kind of like that. Where I'm like, yeah, I'm happy you stupidly blew the lid on this, because now there's no more excuse to hide under. You said it out loud. There we go.
Yeah.
If
It
not
kinda
for
goes-
the dumb people on Twitter acknowledging it, the companies of Japanese media will. So
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what I was saying about like Western money having some influence on these people. When they say it was made in conjunction with the creator to make sure that all the or that it was as faithful to the original as possible, I think what they basically meant is they held the promise of money over the creators' heads to sign off on changes. I think that's what that meant. Is they used their economic power to try and incentivize these changes and lie to these people, trying to convince them that, oh, well, it'll do better over here if you change these things because it's not acceptable to us over here. And I'm just like, you want to know why Ghost Stories is one of the greatest English dubs of all time? Because it's absolutely unhinged. It's hilarious. It is racist as hell.
yeah, see, it's even though it's probably insanely inaccurate. They went so credibly insane with it. It's more entertaining that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and look, what people really want is they don't want like the politics and stuff of it. Like, look, I don't think anyone's ever really cared as far as like those of us in the West who like really do enjoy anime, not the tourists. I don't think we've ever cared about like transgender characters or gay characters or any of that stuff being. Look at how like popular BL manga is. Like there's so much of it out there. Like you don't really see any big series about it, but like there's so much of it out there that someone's got to be eating that stuff up.
Yeah, I mean, it's enough.
One
to,
Piece
like,
has
someone
had
who's
transgender
actually
characters
into
for
it.
a decade or so. So yeah, sorry. You had something you were going to say?
Oh no! I was just saying, there's enough out there that the people who actually want to consume it, and by consume I mean like the people who are actually into it and don't just want it to be the next big series, so that they can brag about it on Twitter and get those likes for like a week before then moving on to another series. But like for the people who actually are into it for one reason or another, they have enough to where they can enjoy. Kind of like I used to like In fact, I still do like Beyblades, and Yeah, I was really happy when it was trending at the end of 2023. But before then, I didn't need it to be in like I didn't need I don't know, the newest season of anime to go like, oh, by the way, check out Beyblade. It's like, no, no. We have a ongoing anime that I can enjoy. There's a manga I can read. I was good with it. I know
Mhm.
that's kind of probably a horrible example, but you get the point.
Yeah. This stuff doesn't need to be advertised to us anyway. However, Blaber also admitted that the only reason the English dub of Lovely Complex was made was because most of the people who worked on it did so without pay. Interesting. Is there anything else in here? Okay, so the alterations made to Lovely Complex dubs are whatever to me, but my problem was that Jello Brendan's lack of discretion and disregard not only for the material but also fans and consumers was deeply unprofessional. See, I'm more concerned about people who are willing to just completely bastardize source material. Um, the vast majority of localizations are good, and most of the criticism are nothing burgers targeting a few select examples. I think that's like a really like shitty way of dismissing everything that localizers have done throughout games, manga, and anime. It's unprofessional to brag about the changes you make. Mistakes happen, and localizers aren't perfect. Again, I think this is just. I feel like this one's just cope. Like
Yeah.
we can point to like Bandai Namco doing this kind of stuff. We can point to like Fire Emblem and other Japanese games getting modified to like take out jokes. There's one I saw from Hirohei where he talked about a game where they took out an entire section of dialogue just to make a joke about how ninjas are silent.
That's dumb. Like,
Mhm.
see, the worst part is I'm not even like completely see what's the word I'm looking for. I'm not even like completely against like, some small queer changes. It's just that they suck at their job so much that they can't make people not acknowledge it. 'Cause let's be honest, the market isn't that pecky. It's like a lot of people got introduced to things like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon through things like 4Kids Dub. And we already know that the 4Kids Dub did a lot of big changes that, depending on what series or how much of a fan you are of the original series, can easily be considered horrible localizing. But in the end, people still enjoy that series. I mean, granted, like I know people don't like how they did Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, but how they did the original Yu-Gi-Oh! People still enjoy it to this day. And so it's like it's not even like all these anime fans, just these elitists. Oh, you have to transfer everything word by word. It's just that you do such a terrible job at it that people can't help but think about how you're not even trying to get to the right path.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, this is interesting. So, like, obviously, I think this article is taking a side. Uh, like, they want to make it about like toxic fans here in a bit. So, Twitter users are. I refuse to call it X. Twitter users are currently divided about the Lovely Complex dub situation. Some are upset that the incident gives fuel to the fire of toxic anime fans. Oh yeah, look, there are absolutely toxic anime fans, like uh the people who like send death threats to authors and stuff over like their favorite headcanon not being made a thing. My Hero Academia.
Ah. And yeah, but
um
the thing about that is that
but
that
like
stuff was just
but
like
people,
everywhere.
yeah, but what people are pissed about and what is like the changes they're making are purely along an ideological line. um who harass anyone with English translation injury for anything they perceive as being progressive? No, because they literally are uh doing stuff to make it progressive. Again, Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, okay? And this, obviously, they took out, all the transphobic stuff. Um domestic girlfriend is also toxic. Oh. Yeah, but like they're trying to equate people criticizing like bad faith changes by people who hate the source material to like a toxic Naruto fan telling a Bleach fan to kill himself. Oh, I probably shouldn't say that on YouTube. Oops. I didn't oopsie. Oh well. You know what? It's my channel. I'll do what I want. YouTube
Yeah, I
can't
think we're
stop
deep up
me.
inside. Yeah, I think
Others
we're
are
deep up inside that it doesn't matter.
Mhm. Others are upset that the YouTuber with such a clear disdain for the series he worked on was allowed to co-write and co-voice direct the first English Lovely Complex dub. Some are now also unsure whether they can trust Discotheque Media with future releases, despite the company's attempt to amend the situation. Is there any more to this article? No. So, yeah, it's like, look, I think there was a point to be made about like a lot of localizations don't have that. Like I didn't see it with My Hero Academia. I don't see it with a lot of the big titles, but it doesn't negate the fact that there are bad faith changes made by people who do so along an ideological line,
Yeah,
which
for
is
sure.
just
Because like,
scummy.
why do they? Sorry, I'm about to say because like, why do they get to decide what's appropriate or not? You know, and it's like it's just someone's personal opinion on. Oh yeah, I don't think this Joker's good, so I'm gonna change it. Well, it's like, well, is it really? I mean, it's kind of like if let's say there's a Doom manga that comes out, and some Christian guy start making changes to it because I don't know, Doom guy says some edgy stuff in it. It's like, okay, but why do you get to be the one to decide if this is appropriate enough?
Well, it's like if you don't like it, why are you participating in it? Why are you reading it? If you don't like it, just move on. Like if you don't like Berserk, one, you're crazy. Two, just go read something else. Go
Could
read
they be
something like Rent
broke?
a Girlfriend, okay?
To be fair, a lot of these people are. I mean, obviously, Jello Apocalypse, he's a YouTuber, so he has an avenue, but a lot of these other people are like broke, probably don't have much skill, so this is probably the best they got to have consistent work with whatever degrees or skill sets they have. So it's kind of probably less of a I want to do this and more of a yeah, if I don't do this, I basically have no job because I suck kind of thing.
Also, dude, that's absolutely wild. Like,
What now?
Oh my goodness.
yeah, that is
Oh,
holy crap, that is something else. Holy look, I know some people are absolutely like insane when it comes to like manga and stuff. Like but that is wild. I can do nothing but just laugh and marvel at that kind of stuff. It's yeah, I think there are way too many I think there are way too many people who are way too invested in certain things. Like if you're going to threaten an author for not for not pairing up the main character with someone,
I know.
that is
That's like that's some you lose your card to call anyone a loser ever, in my
yeah.
opinion. Like you're not
Mhm.
allowed to call anyone an insult, a loser, none of that. You lose it for at least the next 5 years.
Yep. And I don't think he's talking about the guy, the localizer we were just talking about. I think he's talking about like a specific incident related to like a domestic girlfriend. Um it's yeah, that just broke my brain there. Look, I've done some cringe things in my life, like read the 100 girlfriends who really, 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 really love you, and do 2 review videos on it. But I don't think I've ever crossed that line. I don't think I've ever sent death threats to a mangaka.
Yeah, those are in the world of One Punch Man. That's someone with a lot of time on their hands and probably a lot of issues.
True. Then again, most of us who are into manga and anime tend to have some, at least like one or two issues. I mean, I'm just speaking for myself here.
I don't know about you. I'm an old person. I'm good. But no, like that's some wild stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, totally didn't watch Inukai-san's dog or anything. Totally didn't watch for science. I'm
Do you read
kidding.
Chainsaw Man?
I do actually. It's right here. I have the box set.
Do you like
Right up
Makima?
Honestly, I was always more into Himeno. Makima is just not my thing. I don't like the like dominant women. I should say I don't like bitchy women.
I never found Makima to be bitching. This Makima seemed like someone who'll make you brush your teeth before intimate time just for as a power move.
Yeah,
Like a little bit too
right.
controlling.
No, I was always more the Himeno fan than Makima, but everyone loves Makima in power.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
Hey, some people just find power sexy. I mean, I totally don't find that sexy. There's nothing in my writing that might indicate that.
Yeah, that's now Chainsaw Man. I enjoyed the first part so far. The second part, I don't know how I feel about it. It's kind of like
Yeah, it feels kind of weird. At least
yeah,
the last
it's losing the plot pretty much. Have you watched Solo Leveling?
Yeah, I saw like the first arc, and then a little bit after the first arc, where the guy was doing his training.
Okay, yeah, because episode 6, I haven't watched anything this week because it has been like, real life work hell, and then trying to make a Jujutsu Kaisen review and get it out in time. So the last time I watched Solo Leveling, the episode, there's just this one scene that absolutely was like, I don't know, like spine-tinglingly thrilling, because it's like one of those like character snap moments that just goes really hard. I like that. Or like you have this character who just realizes, you know what? Maybe I should just be a psycho.
Yeah, I guess he really did win Goblin mode. That's the correct term, like Goblin mode, or
I'm not quite familiar with Goblin mode outside of the memes. So maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick to sicko mode then.
Yeah, the other one I've been watching a lot of is Attack on Titan, because I never actually touched it until now, and I'm doing a whole like review series on that. So that's been good. I like Attack on Titan. I do love me a good seinen manga anime.
Yeah, Attack on Titan season 1, it kind of had me, but at the same time, it wasn't enough to make me continue reading. It wasn't until like much later that I actually got back into it and was more invested into it.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I put out a poll a while back over a bunch of recommendations I got, and to see like what I should watch next, what I should do like my next like catch up review on after Attack on Titan is done. And Tokyo Ghoul is the one that everyone wants me to watch. So that's going to be a thing. Again, I have a bunch of like random like manga over on this end of my shelf, like all like first volumes that I haven't read. One of them is Tokyo Ghoul Volume 1.
Oh wow. Yeah, I haven't honestly I don't know too much about Tokyo Ghoul outside the memes. I did kind of read the later half of the manga for a certain reason, but but it's I never really kind of I just one of the series I found myself actually being invested in. Nothing against it. It was just one of those things was like, yeah, I'm just not into it.
Hmm.
You don't ever had like that one show where it's like there's nothing you can say that's wrong with it, you're just never into it.
Yeah, that was I couldn't say it's not like there wasn't anything wrong with it, but everyone loves Tokyo Revengers. I can't watch it. I couldn't finish the first season. And after finishing the manga for that series, I have an eternal beef that I will take to my grave with it. And I don't need to sit here and rehash that because I've already done 2 whole videos on that.
Good. Now that's something I gotta see.
Yeah, basically, it's just I wanted to love Tokyo Revengers and my problem with Tokyo Revengers. I think that's the 2 videos I did on the series
Yeah, I think
very early on in my YouTube career.
yeah, Tokyo Avengers is like it's one of those things where it's like they have a lot of potential. You just feel like you really fumbled hard closing up the story.
Uh yeah, and like again, Takamichi is one of those characters like I do not like. He basically has his whole character arc at the very beginning of the series, never changes throughout the rest of it, and is just kind of like the same annoying crybaby the whole way through. And like they try to do this whole like crybaby hero thing and like hype him up, but dude, they glaze him so hard in that series. Like people talk about like Subaru Natsuki from ReZero being like useless and worthless as a protagonist. No, no. Takamichi Hanagaki is like one of my like least favorite protagonists next to the dude from Rent a Girlfriend.
Yeah, yeah. Like they are I kind of get what you mean because like I get not being the bravest person in the world. You know, I can definitely relate to not always be the most open minded during the time of my life, but you know, when they're so passive, it gets a little bit annoying, especially to when it's like, even though they're so passive, they still just get to go along with everything. You know, because like it's not like Takamichi's super passiveness ever actually caused a problem with like him and Hina's relationship and such. So you know, it's kind of just like okay, it's kind of annoying when it's like you're always being the term I use is bitch made, but somehow that never actually get you into something. Like you'll think after a while, some of these people, unless it's like someone else actively mending the relationship, they'll just get tired of them or annoyed to a certain extent.
Yeah. Well, it's like these characters can work, but they got to grow up. So, like, one of the cool things, like my favorite anime that came out last year was Frieren Beyond Journey's End, and it has one of those like sort of like cowardly male characters, Stark. But the difference is like Stark just straight up faces his fears. He'll admit like straight up like no, it's scary. I don't want to fight this giant monster, but he'll go and he'll fight and he'll win. Like the dude's tough as nails, but he's still scared. And will actually like help progress the plot and do useful things. These characters like Takamichi needed to either get smart or get strong and grow back and get some confidence in order for me to actually like him. But the whole way through, he was just sort of like crying and relying on everyone else to do all the fighting for him instead of actually like finding a way to do something himself. Same with like the guy from Rent a Girlfriend. I watched the first season of that. I'm like, this dude is such like a spineless, sniveling wimp. I would want to punch this guy if I were one of the girls.
Yeah, I think a lot of these issues with these characters that there's never really even a answer to help, you know, just to fight. There's a anime I used to watch called Hitler Reborn. The main character, he is a wimp, And even by the end of the series, he is, I won't say he's like a complete run, but is like not, could become a Chad or like something still present. He still have like some old issues, but he did improve a little bit. But what helps is that he does have I guess you could say it's just a form of his that he can go into mostly by will that helps makes him lock in. So it's like, okay, how so that okay, even though yes, you can be cowardly, we do know that he has the potential to actually be good. We don't just have to wait for someone else to actually be the heel for him.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like
Yeah.
the okay, yeah, we know you have grace in them. We just need to wait to go into it. And thankfully, throughout the series, we do get clues or indication that yes, he does actually grow up to be, braver, more confident and such. We technically speaking don't see it in the series, but long story short, there's a time traveling plot. And so that's basically our look to see that okay, yeah, he does actually grow up to be a respectable man.
Yeah, it's like I said, these characters need to grow up. They need some sort of improvement. And that's one of the reasons, I like when I compare like Super Natsuki to Takemichi Hanagaki, who are very like similar in structure. Subaru Natsuki actually is like running into death's jaws repeatedly over and over again, like going through like the most awful experiences you could possibly imagine over and over again. And across the series, he gets braver, he gets stronger, he develops more skills that he can use. Not much, he still pales in comparison to like everyone else around him, but he actually like lifts some weight, unlike Takemichi Hanagaki, who literally is just like, all right, everyone get together around me. We got to go fight some stuff. And then does nothing of his own. Like, and also ass pulls the most ridiculous power ups at the end of the series for no reason.
I mean, still talk about Tokyo Revengers, right?
Yeah, that's Tokyo Revengers.
Okay, yeah. That stuff I was kind of just like, I feel like you kind of started pushing a bit.
Honestly, I thought the series was mid up to that point. Like the manga was readable, and I continued doing it just to see how it was ending. And then I got to that ending, and I was pissed. I was so pissed with the way it ended. Like, it was without any like serious spoilers. It felt like the biggest cop out in like a manga that I had ever experienced.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like you, like I kind of get what she was going for, but I kind of felt like, yeah, no, you sort of went a different route with this if you really wanted to go this way. Because then it's kind of just feels like, okay, a lot of this seemed like it could have just been solved easier if you just did this in the first place, in a sense.
Yeah. There was that. But like one thing though is like I wanted to say like when I first finished that, I wanted to say like Ken Wakui sucked as a writer, but I read his original manga, Desert Eagle, and it's very similar to Tokyo Avengers. It's kind of one of those like delinquent stories about like a delinquent kid. But the main character is actually like a really tough guy who wins fights and does stuff and accomplishes goals. Who like takes his own problems into his own hands and actually like solves things. Again, the ending to that one is kind of rushed. Thanks for showing up, JM. Thanks for listening. Have fun.
Yeah, take care, mate.
With Desert Eagle, it again kind of rushes to the end and like blitzes through some stuff that it probably should have taken some time to like drag out a bit, but its protagonist was so much better that it actually made it an enjoyable manga. It was rougher than Tokyo Revengers, but it was more enjoyable because I actually liked the character. Which is interesting. Like the power of a good character right there.
Yeah, like I think that's something a lot of people need to take into consideration, that not everything always needs to be perfect, but just having likable things that people are willing to come back to can really help a series out, especially in like early stages where things are not as concrete as like, Like I said, let's be honest. Not every consumer is actually looking for picture perfect movies. They want something that entertains them. So it's like, hey, you have something that's entertaining and got them interested. Yeah, your stories don't need to be a 10 out of 10. It can even be like a 6 out of 10. But hey, it does a job. Kind of like Solo Leveling, where it's like the stories aren't too complicated, but because of the hype it gives,
like Solo Leveling and Dragon Ball are like kind of similar, where the story, you're not in it for the story, you're there to ride the hype train, and like, goddamn, do they do a good job of that?
Oh yeah, 100%. They're like the masters of it.
All right, well, yeah. So like, yeah, it's manga and anime do not need to have like the deepest, most compelling story ever in order to be like truly great. Like, look at how big Dragon Ball is off of its, okay story and massive freaking hype.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's just
It's
fun.
like,
It's just fun, right?
yeah, like it's interesting. I will say that it's not even like it's that simple. I do think there are like some very interesting concept and thought-provoking things in it, but it's not like it's exactly Shakespeare. But because they know that the point of media is to help entertain, they know how to just keep a honest intention and then make it memorable.
Yeah. What's another one like or like even like just keeping things simple. Like Freerin doesn't have any like super complicated plot, the likes of like Attack on Titan or all of that, but it's still fucking fantastic. So like Freerin Beyond Journey's End. I highly recommend it to everyone. Great
Oh, that elf
fantasy
girl.
anime. Yep. The elf girl, the one that generated all the memes of her pulling stuff out of the briefcase. Yeah, I absolutely love that series. I fanboy over it. And it's gotten me some criticism here on YouTube, but hey, that's to be expected.
Yeah, everyone's a critic.
They absolutely are. They absolutely are. What else have are you familiar with the Dangers in My Heart?
I don't know what's that about.
Basically some like edgelord kid like who's like plotting to kill like all his classmates and all that stuff. He's like super like into like all the like murder serial killer stuff. Ends up like becoming friends with the school's like popular girl. It's a romance anime. And like she's this like totally ditzy, like awkward chick who's always doing like the most like goofy stuff. It's just overall like a feel good story. They finally got to a really, really good part in that anime because again, I don't like to do spoilers very much unless it's like a really, really old thing or like the topic of a night. But I definitely enjoyed the last episode I watched, which would have been last week's episode, not this week's episode. Shangri-La Frontier has been another really good one. Have you heard of that?
Shangri-La. Is that one Chinese anime? Or
No, it's have you seen the dude who like he's like in nothing but like swim trunks and a bird mask?
no, that sounds awesome. What's his name?
Shangri-La Frontier. It's great, honestly. I love the series. Like it it's basically just the let me solo her meme, but in anime form. It's great. It's funny, it's got good animation. It really like hypes up like the fights and stuff and makes you feel like they're actually like intense.
Wait, in a fight, right?
Hmm?
I said he can solo her in a fight, right?
Oh yeah, in a fight. That one's been no end of fun for me to watch. Like the whole Weathermon the Tomb Guard thing has been, because it's all like gaming stuff in that one, because it's all about this dude playing like a good game, like a video game, and just getting lost in the world. But it all like mostly takes place inside the game world. So like he's constantly talking about like stats and stuff and like leveling up and all his strategies, and like there's like the gamer banter and all that going on. And one of the characters reminds me of my younger brother, who's usually on the show, but I decided that he needs to produce more memes for me, so he's been locked back up in the basement and fed only Red Bull for the last week.
So what you're saying is basically it's a video game world, except it's not isekai. Instead, just an actual video world adventure.
Yeah, it's literally just a guy playing a video game and getting addicted to it. That's what it is. Like it's a video game, like it's a video game anime that does the whole video game thing in a non-cringe way.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, that actually does sounds fun. Yeah, to actually just have a story about video games, but it's actually just about video game, not just it's fantasy, but video game stacks on top. And if you die in the game, you die for real. So you basically just die. But
yeah, no, this one is it is all just like hardcore gamer stuff. What
that's
else
good.
is there? What else is there that I've been watching? Well, just about like one that I didn't expect to like as much was Undead Unluck.
Yeah, I've been watching that with. I mean, I wouldn't say I've been fully watching it, but I've been taking peeks at it with siblings, and I'm just like, yeah, this does actually look like a pretty good series to get into.
Honestly, wasn't into it until I wasn't totally into it until like I thought it was like a 6 out of 10 until they got to the round table. And once that happened, I'm like, oh, this series just got like 30% better. Went from a 6 to an 8. Like it's one of those things where like you really got to make it through a couple of episodes and get to like the meat of the series before it really pops off. But yeah, I've enjoyed it. I still think it's kind of a little too goofy at times for its own good, but I like the idea of what it's going for and how it has handled that like turn into storytelling.
Yeah. I'm sorry, can you repeat that last sentence again?
I like how it's handled the turn in its storytelling.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's something that a lot of people need to. It's always fun to see people always be willing to twist things and not just always leave things as a certain kind of way. Yeah, I feel like stories are always better with a little bit of some twists, some turns, and things to keep things interesting.
Yep. Well, okay. I think I do like to cover some of the anime and stuff for the week after I like just sit and chill after covering the news. So I think the last thing I want to say is I have absolutely been enjoying the hell out of The Dark Knight Returns. So shout out to
part one or part two?
This is technically it is. I got 4 books here in this one. Oh, my camera's being a jerk. My camera was unplugged. Whatever. We're gonna be wrapping up the show here pretty soon anyway, so I think I'm gonna just leave it like that. It's basically like the part through where he fights Superman. So I don't know whether that's part 1 or part 2, but it comes with 4 books here, and so far I've really enjoyed what they're doing. Or what they've done with this story. I absolutely have loved it, and I need to get into some more of my Batman stuff because I love Batman. But
yeah, recently I read the manga version of Afro Samurai because I heard that the manga was a lot different than how it was in the anime or the movie. So I managed to. I went to a convention like a couple of weeks ago, and they were selling the complete edition, so I managed to just snatch it up.
Nice. Never actually been to a convention. It's something I need to actually do. But
Yes.
work has me all tied up for a while yet. So womp womp, I guess.
Hey, if you ever want on vacation, spend a weekend away won't be the worst.
Yeah, well, yeah, I always like a vacation. So with that, I think I've kind of covered all of the bases and whatnot. I think it's a good time to wrap it up. So, Hero Darky Dark, if you would like to plug anything, whether, campaign, YouTube channel, social media, all that stuff, now's the time. So go for it.
Okay. In the name of our great savior, Bernie Sanders, I'm once again selling for Relentlessly Bully Hill #1. We're only less than $100 away from being fully funded. So if you want to pick up a book, either physical or digital copy, there we go. And if you want to keep up with what I'm doing, I got Twitter at Hero Darky Dark. So you can keep up with updates and whatever else I do. And that's it for me. I'm good.
Sorry, you gave me a heart attack there. I thought my computer locked up again. It did so earlier in the stream and nobody seemed to notice. So yeah. Well, you know where to find me. You can find my Twitter in my YouTube description. If you're here, you can just hit the subscribe button because that simple but free action does really help me. Gives me that nice boost of serotonin in my brain. Makes me feel the happy. And yeah, thanks for giving me your time if you've listened this far. And I hope you go help Hero Darky Dark finish out the campaign. There is 7 days left to get $100 worth of backing for that book. It looks fun, like it's just going to be a good, nice little, like, entertaining hero comic. So I would urge you to do so. That said, I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you when I see you next.